There have been some giant announcements about Tesla and electric vehicle revolution in Europe recently. The biggest one for us Tesla investors is the announcement by Elon Musk that Tesla's $25,000 compact car will also be built in Giga Berlin. How are the German auto companies doing, and will the Chinese EV companies take over Europe? Will Europe allow full self-driving? And what can we expect with Tesla stock? These are just some of the questions we're going to ask Alex Voigt. Alex is a very well-respected Tesla expert based in Europe. If you subscribe to him on X, he provides deep dives on progress on the major German automakers and their efforts as they introduce electric vehicles. Welcome, Alex. Thank you for joining me.
Great to be back, Herbert. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
We used to hang out a lot. We used to do a lot of spaces and a lot of discussions, but it's been a while. So I wanted to get you back on, answer these questions about what's happening in the German auto industry, Europe auto industry. So many things are happening. The big one, of course, is Elon was just at Giga Berlin, and he made the big announcement. The $25,000 compact car will be happening there. And then you got to give us an update on what's happening with the expansion. People were thinking that he made a big deal about slowing down investments in Giga Mexico until he knows for sure the economy is improving. But they also made a big deal that that does not mean that they're not going to expand, and it looks like that they are. So please answer those two questions. Thanks.
Yeah, so that was a surprise visit from Elon in Berlin. So I think nobody expected it. He just kind of came in. Obviously, internally, they did know that he's coming. And the information trickled through pretty quickly that he talked about that the 25K vehicle will come to Giga Berlin and that it will be manufactured and produced there. So that was obviously news. Actually, I wasn't that much surprised. And I believe everybody is following here has expected that. The compact car is a perfect format for Europe. A lot of people are saying that the Cybertruck is not good fit for Europe, which I have a different opinion about because the vehicle is too big, and that Germany and Europe really loves smaller cars. And it's true, a lot of people are driving small cars here, and we have narrow roads everywhere. So no surprise that this vehicle is coming to Giga Berlin, simply because Elon said it before, and we all know it, that localization is key. And that means you produce where you sell the vehicles, where you service the vehicles, where you maintain the vehicles. And of course, also you do the local sourcing, if it's possible, nearby. So all of that happened. And I think for a lot of people, this was news. It was news that I expected. But there are a lot of questions coming with that, of course, in terms of what kind of production technology is used in order to press the cost down. We all know that Tesla is cost leader as of now, and I believe they are going to be that in the future too. But if they go for a 25K model, and I believe this is gonna be 25K without VAT. So it needs to be understood that in Europe, we are always, naming prices with VAT. I think in the US, it's the other way around, which means that the final price for the car is probably going to be above 30K here in Europe. But nevertheless, it's going to be a big deal simply because there are no good BEVs out there, in particular, not, BEVs that have the value a Tesla has for in that price range. That would be a game changer, and everybody's talking about it. I mean, VW is talking about a 25K model for years, more or less, but they are far away from that. And being a cost leader, Tesla is one. The cost will go down the next years. I think there's a high credibility that they really can make this happen. In terms of your question of where this is going to happen, I mean, right now, Giga Berlin is around 250,000 vehicles per year run rate. And so which is kind of 5,000 or a week. So, but they are going to scale up, obviously, to 10K, which is 500,000 then in a year. That's a plan. And my expectation is that this is still going to be the Model Y or that's my hope, the Model 3. But probably they're scaling up the Model Y just to 500,000. And, everybody's watching what's happening here in Europe, knows that there's an expansion planned for Giga Berlin. And that expansion is from 500K to 1 million vehicles produced in a year. So we are talking capacity here. And my expectation is that the 25K model will be within that expansion. And there's been a public hearing lately, and there's been discussion and all the FUD going around from the media and a lot of confusion about water and, all those things that are happening. And there hasn't been big, challenges, to be honest, this time compared with the first process Tesla went through in order to start the factory. And so therefore, I'm pretty confident that this will happen. But there are news in that sense that in phase one, Tesla was starting construction without having a construction permit. It's called preliminary permit. So they take this on their own risk. They just build and then they cross their fingers and do everything right and hope that they get a permit afterwards. Because if they wouldn't, they would be forced to tear down everything. That was the situation in phase one. And what I've heard is that now for the extension from 500,000 to 1 million vehicle, in terms of the construction, they are going the, let's say, official and normal approach in terms of getting a permit first and then starting the construction, which would mean, by the way, referring back to that what you've said before, that it may take longer for the second phase to complete. So that is a rumor. I have no solid confirmation about that, and I don't think Tesla gave any confirmation, but this is what I heard. It would line up actually with what you mentioned about Giga Mexico. And if we listen to the last earnings call, we all know that Elon is very nervous about, high interest rate, inflation, and obviously, this goes along with demand too. So therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead, they invest. There is no question mark here at all. If they build up that capacity, but they are not, going ahead like crazy. They just go ahead like normal, if you like.
Okay, so a couple of questions about that. So they're expanding
Sure.
Giga Berlin, and it looks like that it sounded like it's moving along, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you heard, but a few days ago, there was a holding company that Tesla's opened in Spain. And then people are also asking, like all the visits that he made with all the world leaders, all the European ones, Italy, basically everybody, he went around and shook hands. Why was he doing that? Is there a potential that for megapack factories? So are you expecting beyond Giga Berlin that there will be another gigafactory, which I just can't imagine they need to, and then megapack factories or other reasons? What's your estimate of what might be happening?
So if you ask me if a megapack factory will be happening in Europe, my answer is yes. Where, I don't know, but sooner or later, this is a perfect market for, large megapacks. And lately there was an announcement about power walls, so that selling is really going very well in Europe. And there's a huge need and demand for large battery packs for the industry. And also for buffering. We have, particularly in Germany, we have a big challenge here with wind energy in the northern part of Germany, where a lot of wind is, but most of the industry is in the southern part of Germany. So it needs to be transferred all through Germany. And that's creating a lot of issues with, power lines and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to say here is there's obviously a very, very high large demand in all of Europe for large battery projects, and they are scaling up now. So therefore, coming back to that, what I've said before, Tesla is trying to manufacture and produce where the customers are. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, it makes a lot of sense to have a factory in Europe. Will it be in Berlin? Will it be somewhere else? I don't know. And in terms of all the leaders Elon is talking to, I mean, this is this makes sense. Elon, he's a personality people, first of all, want to get to know in person for a variety of reasons. Secondly, it's never bad to talk to leaders in terms of possibilities, to check out what could be achieved together. And there's not only the interest, I believe, from Tesla in order to discuss a potential factory in a certain country, be it in Europe or be it in Asia. I mean, we know about the talks in India, for instance. But it's also about opening up the country, the market for Tesla products. And there are even, a variety of other aspects of discussions. So therefore, I welcome every conversation Elon has with leaders in order to open doors for business, and business can mean a lot of things. In terms of the Spain holding, I do not have a lot of information, and it's an interesting move because it's the first time I hear that an international corporation working in Europe is opening up a holding in Spain.
Mhm.
So we don't know, but what we know is there are a couple of battery projects going on in Spain. Spain is, for a variety of reasons, not a bad country for this kind of projects. And knowing production planning, there are, thoughts and requirements you have before you decide to build a plant in a certain country that go way beyond that what most people believe. So obviously supply chains, resources, local regulation, but also the supply with renewable energy there to get everything running. Nowadays, maybe even water supply, which probably, is now new on the list and wasn't really before that much. So there are a lot of things that need to be considered before you make a decision. And Elon is flying around talking to a lot of leaders around the globe. Each time we hear in the news and the media that now a new factory for vehicles will be, starting there. But there are so many options and possibilities why he's having this talks. And we all know that these leaders are eager to talk to Elon because such a, let's say a vehicle factory has a lot of gravity for other industries. If you, for instance, look at Giga Berlin again, which is actually Brandenburg, the state is Brandenburg where it's located. And Brandenburg was so far a state that hasn't really done so well in terms of business and industry. And Tesla made a big difference. So the largest growth in Europe from the States, if you compare them, is now actually in Brandenburg, which is quite a surprise for all of Germany. And a huge portion of that GDP growth from Brandenburg is coming directly from Tesla or indirectly. In other words, there's a huge supply industry that settled down around, EVs and batteries and chemicals and you name it. And this continues to grow, and that's fantastic. It has, for the region, it's a blessing. And obviously, every president, every leader of a country would like to have this in his country. So therefore, they always roll out the red carpet and ask Elon for conversations and talks. And he would be stupid not to take this opportunity. Talk is, you can talk to everybody, and if something is coming out of that later on, we will see, because a lot of talks and discussions he had in India and Turkey and you name it never really resulted in any actions yet. Still may happen, but it's good to talk, I think.
Yeah, so this is the question I wanted to ask you, right? Is how is the German country, the government there, especially with the lobbying, I'm sure, the strength and power of the German auto industry reacting to this? There are, like you just said, many countries and world leaders vying for Tesla. A couple examples is India. Apparently, Elon's flying to meet with the top level commerce minister there next week, because India basically he said, we're going to remove all issues, all regulations. We're going to reduce the import taxes by January, which is a couple months from now. And so they're really basically courting Tesla and saying, we'll do whatever you guys want. Then you had this reporter just do an interview of Giga Shanghai, and the Chinese experts said that China welcomed Tesla to come in because they are benefiting all the automakers, the Chinese EV makers, and there's all these benefits to China, not just to Tesla. So in Europe, though, right, dominated by legacy automakers, are they putting up a fight? They probably are. They're obviously controlling the government in some way. How do you feel the strength and power of these Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, Mercedes? What's happening with them?
So the picture painted outside of Germany about the politicians and to what extent they welcome Tesla is incorrect. So most, if not all politicians, at least, the governing coalition and the main parties are all extremely supportive of Tesla. So there is no second thought there. And you're right. I mean, there's a strong German legacy automotive industry, which is lobbying from the early morning to the late evening, and they are spending a lot of money to influence them, and they succeed in certain aspects. Yeah, so don't get me wrong here. They definitely succeed. But the thing and the trick here is that Tesla is now a German, manufacturer. There's a big factory in Germany with German jobs, and they have the supply industry around that is supplying them with products to produce vehicles and batteries. So therefore, there's a ton of reasons for the German politicians to support Tesla. So definitely they talk to BMW, Mercedes, and VW, and Audi, and Porsche, and you name it. And they listen to them, and they try to adjust to their needs and requests and requirements, but they are not, at least not all, dumb. So they understand that Tesla is a company that has a pretty bright future, that is growing, and they also understand that legacy automakers have a challenge and a problem. And with every 1,000 additional employees, the weight of Tesla in Germany is gaining influence. So in other words, there's obviously a lobbying, and I've just heard it today, from someone telling this to me, what is happening behind the curtains in terms of, for instance, charging infrastructure in Germany that is really partly blocked from legacy automakers. Because their vehicles just do not sell very well. I mean, we know this, right? So the BEVs of the legacy German automakers, I mean, this is why I started. When I started to get public and write articles, and started with Twitter or to share information, I've done it in order to wake some automotive managers up. And I didn't succeed. So because they didn't listen. And there has been the attempt really to develop good BEVs, but at the end of the day, we have to see the situation as it is right now. And what we see here is that German legacy automakers have battery electric vehicles in the premium high-cost segments that are selling, but they are not selling on a scale that would allow them to compensate for the decrease in ICE sales. So the first wave of innovation, production, yes, we have good software and we deliver good vehicles, is over now. And what we see is that Tesla is selling well, developing, expanding, as well as some Asian companies with BYD, one of the companies I watch the closest. So what I'm trying to say here is that the influence of the legacy German automakers on the politicians here is decreasing. Yes, there are a lot of jobs that are at risk, but these jobs are anyway at risk because German automakers are not doing well in big markets like China and in the US. And if they don't sell there and their factories there as well, a lot of question marks coming up about the future. So I wrote once that I'm more concerned than ever about the future of the German automotive industry.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that sentence I could repeat every year because it's not really going better for a variety of reasons. One thing that is really concerning me is I do not see the innovation, in particular in terms of manufacturing, that I would expect from the German legacy automakers. There was a gigacasting approach from VW that has been cancelled. There has been, projects from VW about greenfield new factories like the Trinity factory that has been cancelled. They want still to do it, but they are trying to implement this in a brownfield approach in their existing facilities in Wolfsburg or now in Zwickau, which comes with a ton of compromises. And I'm out of the production technology industry, and I know that you make a lot of compromises if you try to bring a totally new production philosophy into an existing plant. Usually it doesn't work, to be honest. So innovation is missing, and we all know that software is not the sweet spot of German automakers, and this doesn't change. I just got today new interesting information about CARIAD, the software company, information I can't share, but who's following me on Twitter is getting the notion what's happening there. And there was lately the news that a third of the employees from the 6,000, I think it's now 6,500 employees at CARIAD, which is a software unit for all of VW Group, a third is, about to leave. And it's probably not a bad thing, to be honest, because who needs 6,000 IT guys to develop a good vehicle software? I think nobody. So there are a lot of cultural problems and political problems within VW Group, but the same is true for Mercedes and BMW. And these are the main issues and challenges to change within the transformation. A lot of people are just talking about the design or even the technology or the software, which is all true. But at the end of the day, you need to change the mindset of a company and the leaders and the managers in order to get something moving. And although I've been criticizing Herbert Diess a lot, I have also to give him credit for really tearing down some of these walls and issues and creating a ton of pressure within the organization. And a lot of people hated him, in particular all the managers, because he was so demanding and he couldn't tell them how to implement it, but he was demanding. And now he's out, and VW is going back to the old business, everything like before. And that is very concerning. Therefore, I do not see the innovation I would like to see. Yes, there are approaches like BMW with the 4.6XX cell format, so they are investing in there. There are approaches, from Porsche to work together with Google in order to get better software. Audi is partnering up with SAIC in China in order to get a better BEV platform. VW brand is partnering up with XPeng, as you probably know, in order to get a better BEV platform. But if we just look at that, what does that mean is that the value creation part of a BEV is usually within the battery and the software. This is where the money flows. And this is now going outside of these legacy automakers. So therefore, the profit will also go outside. And that's not a good development if you're a German and if you would like to see the German automotive industry prosper and grow. And it's not just about the German automotive industry, by the way, because the underlying level, not talking about the automotive suppliers, but I'm talking about the machining industry, which is extremely strong in Germany historically. And they are big customer of them, for them is automotive. And if this is falling, going away, at least even partly, Germany is in trouble. And this is what's happening right now. So I think Germany is still in a denial stage. So if I have one-to-one conversations with managers in Germany, they all agree. They all agree that there's a big problem and, we can't continue like that. But I don't see the action. It's not like if you listen to the news, the top managers are not really understanding how critical the situation is and that they need to act now. Lately, Elon replied, I think, to one of my tweets where he said they need to go into battery electric vehicles pronto. And he's right. But what we see right now is that they are almost pedaling back. I mean, this myth or lie about there's not enough BEV demand is really, welcome from a lot of people in Germany, but it's still a lie. It's not true. And just closing the eyes about the reality doesn't help you to win in the future, right? So I'm continue to be really concerned about that.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com. Oh, okay, no, good. So you brought up the Chinese automakers. So the European, German brands, they are struggling. They're trying to understand how to do this. You talked about their culture. And then they've been partnering, as you said. Like example, Volkswagen invested 5% to Xiaopeng. Volkswagen already had a long-term relationship with SAIC. Some of the Chinese have bought German or European brands like MG, right? Volvo and Geely. Now, so this is the part I'm confused with, and I need you to help me figure this part out, okay? So the German brands are doing very poorly in China. The number of sales of their brand is falling significantly. And so they needed to partner with companies. There was this very recent partnership, I forget who it is now. I think it was Volkswagen with another very small Chinese EV. And they basically said, anything you build, you sell in China, but anything you build, you sell outside of China, export it. We put our badge on it, we sell it as Volkswagen, right?
Yeah. I think it's XPeng, as far as I understand it.
No, Xiaopeng was a different one. They invested 5% in it. This is a smaller company. This was just literally 2 weeks ago. Okay, so
I remember. I don't remember the name, but I remember
Smart something. So the European car companies are now needing, like we just talked about, partnering with the Chinese EV makers because they need them to help them create EVs. At the same time, BYD is now landing in Europe. And just last week, they announced that they're going to open a factory in Hungary. So while there's this anti-subsidy probe that Europe government set up and said, we are going to shut down the exports by Chinese EV into Europe, but BYD sets up a factory there. And then at the same time, they're kind of in bed with the Chinese EV. So, you know what I mean? Like, how is Europe going to stop the Chinese invasion and people deciding to buy the Chinese cars versus which is just a shocker, right? Because it's like the brands are so strong. So tell me what you think is going to happen there.
So first of all, the brands are not going away. There is a value associated to a brand that has been building up for 100 years, and they've been invested, hundreds of millions over the years, probably even billions, in order to build that brand. And they are not, they are not leaving it away. They will continue with that brand. So as you said, whatever badge is on the car at the end of the day, it's a little bit a different story. In terms of BYD, I mean, we all know that BYD has been in China really very successful. I mean, the sales numbers of BYD, BEV sales almost last quarter like Tesla, which is great. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm a Tesla shareholder, but I applaud that. We need much more good, BEV companies out there. And I've seen here BYD vehicles driving and parking, and they look good. So that's that's a positive. Although for me, it's much more important to understand the technology underneath, the cost structure, and obviously the specifications and the performance of these vehicles in terms of efficiency and how the software works and stuff like that. I'm not able really to assess how good BYD is compared with the Tesla or other brands. But what I can say is they've been successful in China, and obviously they want to go here over to Europe in Hungary, which is an interesting choice for a variety of reasons. I think Jan talked about it too. But I don't see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that Europe will restrict vehicles from China with import tariffs here in Europe. I don't see this happening for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is that the European and German automotive industry is importing from China quite a bit. And just by restricting vehicles that are coming from China, you're shooting in your own foot. You're creating problems for your own industry. And it's really very difficult to distinguish the one from the other. Historically, Europe has not really a strong culture of restricting products from China. And you can say this is bad or good as you wish, because it has, this coin has two sides. For instance, Germany had in the beginning a very strong solar industry, so solar panels, which has been going down the drain and almost vanished because Chinese came with lower cost products, which still has been good, and Germans have bought them, and the German solar industry went bankrupt. So that's a negative story, but it shows that there are some hurdles here in terms of protectionism. And I believe there are good reasons why this is not just simply implemented. As I said, this goes both ways. There's a lot of products and systems that are imported into Germany. There are vehicles produced from Germans in China that are exported to other parts of the world. In the future, maybe even exported to Germany, back to Germany again, simply for cost reasons. So therefore, it's pretty complex and not that easy. To be honest, I don't see that Europe will do that, even if Germany wanted to, and I don't see that the German politicians are standing up for it. There are some people who are claiming that, but I don't see it. The European Union probably won't accept that because they have their own agenda too. And Germany alone won't just do it. That would be very difficult from a political perspective too. So it's an interesting development. And you said, why is BYD coming to Europe? Makes total sense, right? Why has Tesla been going to China? Because they wanted to produce locally and the consumers are there. So definitely it was the right decision, as we all know already today. And the same is true for BYD. If you want to succeed in Europe, you're better off to manufacture here. Definitely you can import, but you always will have challenges and issues. And to be accepted, it's much better to have a local production. And Hungary has a huge supplier base already, so it's a good place in that perspective. So when in 1989, 90, the wall went down, the Iron Wall between Western Europe and Eastern Europe, there's been a lot of German companies, in particular machining, but also automotive, moving to the eastern countries, one of them Hungary, to produce there. So there's been a huge and important industry developing over time. So therefore, Hungary is certainly not, from that perspective, not a bad place to implement a factory and to get going. But it will take time, right? So although Hungary may have some different regulation and laws compared to Germany, less red tape, I expect at least that they have less red tape. We don't know how fast it's going to happen. But nevertheless, it's a good decision, much better than just importing from China to Europe and hoping that you are getting a market share here.
Yeah, I didn't say, that why did they do that? And they did that because they BYD setting up a shop in Hungary is because they want to get past, like I said, the anti-subsidy laws that could come into play. Okay, this is very interesting what's happening. So I'm curious why. So that, okay, we just mentioned here that the European and German auto brands are in trouble. They recognize it, and so they're actually partnering with Chinese EV makers. Is there a likelihood? Is there a chance who could actually partner with Tesla? And it could be the drivetrain, it could be the batteries, it could be software, it could be FSD. Any chance that one of these automakers in Germany, like you said, it's the brand that matters, right? That's really critical for some of them. What's your thought there?
So you probably mean that Tesla's partnering with a German legacy automaker. So
Yeah.
that discussion
Could that not happen? Yeah, sooner than later. No, no.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm
Really?
sorry. Yeah, I don't see it.
Huh.
Let me try to explain why.
But they just partner with the Chinese, Alex. They partner with the Chinese. So why not Tesla?
You mean Tesla?
No.
No, you mean the Germans. Okay.
Yeah, but Volkswagen partner. We just talked about it. They partner with several Chinese companies. So why wouldn't they partner with Tesla?
Because Tesla is a very different animal. First of all, you have a founder there with Elon, who is the CEO and who is making decisions kind of independent based on his gut feel and intuition. And these decisions in the past have been proven to be right. And he's a different caliber compared to any other CEO of the automotive industry, because these are managers like consultants who are managing a large corporation organization. Elon is someone who is initiating a culture and a principle approach into people and an organization. And that is a big difference. If you have a CEO who is very rarely changing the culture of an organization, Elon has, I mean, if you think about the not employee handbook stuff, these kind of things, everybody's laughing about it, but this is real stuff, this is not made up. So just the thought that you can talk to anybody in the organization, obviously not everybody will do that because they don't dare to, but officially they could. This would be a deal breaker within every German organization. So what I'm trying to say here is, can they, deliver certain systems and parts to each other? Definitely, yes. In particular, Tesla to them. But in terms of vertical integration, Tesla has, for good reasons, developed a structure that makes them independent and partly even immune to challenges in the supply chain. We've seen this with semiconductors. We've seen this with the harnesses, the cable harnesses issues that had a bad negative impact on most legacy automakers, but not on Tesla. So I don't see that from an approach and from an organizational perspective in terms of innovation, how to manufacture, how to manage people, how to structure processes, how to change in terms of accelerating the transformation, how Tesla could really strongly partner with the German automotive industry. Very different, obviously, to the Chinese automakers, because there's a win-win situation. So first of all, in my business career, when I've seen people, companies partnering, joint ventures, or even merging or acquiring parts, it always has been that both partners believe the benefit. So it's like, one and one together makes three. And I've been in companies that have been acquired or that partnered, and my experience has been that one and one together was at the end one. So because there was a negative impact. There was a brain drain. There was a loss in intellectual knowledge and really smart people. So often these new organizations haven't been that strong. So the expectations are sometimes, ask yourself why companies are partnering. Why should they do that? If they are doing really well, they wouldn't. They do it because they expect that the other company has something that helps them to overcome a difficult situation. And this is exactly what I'm seeing. VW is not partnering with, and you have a great pronunciation. I need to learn that. How do you say Xpeng? Xiaopa. So they are partnering with them because they are believing that in terms of PVs, they can change the game by having a different platform provider compared with the MEB platform that has, really very bad sound here for most people who are driving BEV. And obviously, the Chinese partners are expecting something from VW in terms of sourcing procurement, just the sheer size of the organization, and obviously also the reputation of VW Group. So there's a lot of benefit coming also in the other direction, right?
I see.
So, but if this will be what they are expecting, an accelerator for both, I doubt that. Usually it's not really going that direction. And again, Tesla is totally a different animal. When I talk to the people within Tesla at company factory tours or whenever, you get the spirit. These people have a spirit. They have a mission. It's not just simply a job. It's much more for them. So if they talk to people who just do their 8-hour job every day, they are just not linking up. It's not the same. Therefore, I don't see it. And the other question you need to ask yourself in terms of Tesla and partnering with German OEMs is why? What would be the benefit for Tesla?
I'm referring to licensing. So Volkswagen should license FSD or software instead of building their own with CARIAD.
Absolutely. And in that respect,
okay,
all what I said before is more or less, getting supply from German automakers or working closely together. Licensing something to them is absolutely meaningful and makes a ton of sense. And we see this already happening today with the supercharger, network in the US, which is a form of licensing in terms of opening up the network. Because let's be clear, if you have a BEV on a certain technology, on a certain volt system, you need to understand how you can charge with a supercharger in a way that it really works for your technology and for your future innovation that you're trying to implement. It's not just like a legal thing where you go there, you need to check out this technology. So therefore, there are talks already, right? So they're having these conversations, they are checking this. And I just heard today, and I can't disclose that, from a German automaker who already puts in his requirements everything that is needed to be able to use the, how's it called, NACS, right? Supercharger.
That was announced today.
Which one?
That in Europe that they partnered with Tesla's supercharger in network in Europe. It was a relation to Volkswagen. Is it? I can't remember which company now, but that was just announced today.
Okay, so I'm not dropping any names here because I can't, but I heard this today through my channels, and what I'm trying to say here is there is some conversation already, but this is more Tesla providing services or even products to some companies. In this, I think there's an open field here. If Tesla would say, we are selling batteries. We are selling skateboards. Batteries for battery electric vehicles, full self-driving, obviously, or autopilot or other stuff. I think there would be a market out there. And nevertheless, the arrogance and the history of the German automakers would hinder them really to open that door. We've had with Herbert D. someone who was really open to talk to Elon and changing the name of the game. but there is a culture here in Germany in the automotive industry that is not really very helpful to have an open discussion with Tesla. They feel like it's still an underdog. It's this US company. They just are not able to build good cars. And yes, the software may be nice and they have some market share, but it's a cultural thing. And that's really a bad thing, because it's not helpful to manage the transformation. They should learn from Tesla in a variety of areas, but this is not happening. They're still trying to make it on their own, and because they feel now the heat and the issues, they are reaching out to China, which is okay. That's fine. I mean, there are good BEV companies in China, reaching out to them in order to overcome the issues they have. But wouldn't it be more logic to go to the guys who are really the leader in the industry and to try to learn from them? Even if it's hard for you emotionally in terms of overcoming your own restrictions and understand that you've been wrong in the past, this is what I would expect from managers who get millions and millions every year in compensation and salary. So that much of, grown-up attitude, let's put it like that, is something that I expect from these top managers, but I don't see it. And this is disappointing for me as a German.
So far, it's not. Okay. I want to hear more about Tesla's full self-driving and its efforts in Europe. So there was news, 6 months ago, that the European Commission was, they were fast-tracking this regulation for what they call driver control assistance systems, DCAS, and that they fast-tracked the ability for Tesla to offer FSD beta in Europe, and it was supposed to happen here in January of 2024. What's your expectations for full self-driving beta finally making it into Europe?
So regulation is obviously a bigger challenge and issue, has a lot to do with the UNEC organization, but not only. Also, the local regulation has influence and is in discussion. On top of that discussion around the European Union, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the UK, a few days or last week, there was a King's Speech letter where it was announced that there is legislation on the way for full self-driving autonomous vehicles.
I didn't know that.
And we do not know all the details yet. I mean, this letter is a few pages long, but it's using the right words, let's put it like that. As we all know, the UK is not longer a part of the European Union, so therefore they have a little bit more, space and decision power in certain aspects. So therefore, I'm quite positive about the UK possibly making a difference here. The other thing I hear is Switzerland. Switzerland is also not a part of the core European Union. I mean, there are different levels, and I'm not going in there because it's complicated. But Switzerland is still separate, and they can make their own decisions, in particular if it comes to such things like autonomous driving. And Switzerland is a big supporter of Tesla. I mean, there are tons of people, they are really selling a lot, and people love the cars. So that is a second wild card where I believe there are not so bad chances that Switzerland is just making a decision. One of the issues Europe and the European Union has, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big supporter of the European Union, but the issue is you have so many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, they all have different ideas, and if one of all the cooks is saying, no, we don't use salt, you just don't have salt in your soup, and it doesn't taste. So nobody likes it anymore. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's a complicated process with the European Union. Even if they want to go there, I don't see them going fast. And based on the compromises they make all the time and the influence we have from lobby groups, and you bet all the German automakers and also other European automakers are lobbying against full self-driving, not because they don't like it, but they want to have the regulation designed and phrased in a way that their solution can be put on the roads, and they claim victory in order to create the required demand for their cars. For instance, BMW was yesterday giving a PR out that I think it's in January or in March next year, they're going to launch level 3, autonomous driving kind of for their i7 or 7 series vehicles. So this will be just a very few vehicles for a lot of money, where again, you can use, you can read your mails or make your text messages or make a phone call, again on an autobahn with a divider in between up to 60 kilometers an hour, which means it's a traffic jam because otherwise nobody is driving that slow. And then the big news is that in the PR they are saying, well, and you even can use it at night, which is okay. I mean, good to know, but we all know that, Tesla full self-driving is making this hands down at night with rain and other things. So yes, there are issues to overcome, but 60 kilometers an hour is just a no-go. And so what I'm trying to say here is the regulation probably will be phrased from the European Union in a way that it will be hard for Tesla to use full self-driving here in Europe, even if it's better version like in the US right now. And so my bet would be more on the UK or Switzerland. And, that would be actually a good thing. That would be a country that's just moving ahead and saying, you know what, we check this out. And we think based on the data, there's, less accidents, less harm, less people are dying, less injured. So must be a good thing. Let's check this out here. And then we look at the data and we still can decide the other way around later on. I think that's a good thing. And once they do that, all of Europe will look there. They will. It will be a magnifying glass, and everybody will look at it. And if it turns out to be positive, it will be hard for the countries who are lobbying against it still to be against it. And I think this is probably, the better approach compared of waiting for the European Union to decide for legislation that would allow full self-driving on our roads here. For me, as a German, disappointing, obviously, because I don't expect it to be in Germany anytime soon. And it makes me angry because, the data proves that a lot of people and a lot of harm could be avoided, and it isn't for political reasons. And that makes no sense at all. But still, I mean, the lobby is going really strongly against it. We know it even in the US, right? It's not easy there too. But if a country would move ahead, I think that would be the best case that can be made to give the public an understanding that this really works and is the right thing to do to move forward. Interestingly, just to add to that, the story around Cruise, what we just heard from the US, is quite shocking. I mean, under the line, as far as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it means like Cruise was not really, honest. And this cars has been kind of supervised remotely from people in order to make sure nothing bad is happening. And that doesn't create trust, right? It doesn't create credibility in the industry that is trying to get this robotaxis on the road. And that doesn't make it easier for Tesla either. So bad development, definitely, and quite shocking. But I think there is no other way. I'm quite happy that the US is really testing this up and down, and that data is collected despite all odds. And I'm totally bullish on it because I see the videos, I talk to the people who are using it. So and again, even here in Germany, a lot of people are bullish on it. So it's a great development.
Okay, yeah, good. All right, so I wanted to ask you about your investment in Tesla. So you are a long-term bull. You and I have been following Tesla for, you're really invested in your evaluation of Tesla. Tell me why you're bullish about Tesla, and where do you think that what's going to happen to the stock in the next year?
So yeah, it's true. I'm an investor since I started investing 2014 to 2018. Later on, added a little bit. In particular, last year when we've been down to I think $104 it was, and I've seen all the ups and downs in that period. So I've been following the stocks, the company, Elon, and I've been reading and listening to all what I could absorb. And there's something I learned. I learned that the majority of what was promised and put out to be realized materialized. As an engineer who was really looking deeply into the technology, I came back in the day to the conclusion that this has a high chance to work. There was in the early days high risk, no doubt, because if you have such a small company with just a few billions and not a lot of funding, the challenge is to become cash flow positive in order to finance your own business expansion. And that's a big issue in such a capital intense industry. So after Tesla overcome that situation, they've been kind of out of the woods. And what I see right now in terms of innovation happening all the years is extremely promising. You still can claim this or that won't happen, but the vector of the company, what they are doing, how they are doing it, what kind of team they have, gives me a lot of confidence that this will materialize. If you listen to peers and critics, you usually get always a short-term view, and that's fair. You can say in the next year we will see a recession, and inflation will remain high, and people just don't have the money, yada yada yada. All of that is fine. I have no problem with that, but I don't care really that much what's happening in the next year. I care more what's happening in the next 10 years. And if I look at the vertical integration, the acceleration of innovation, what they're doing there, that they're the cost leader, how Tesla is expanding around the globe. And I think they're selling in around, 40 countries globally, which is nothing. I mean, look at other automakers. They're selling in 100 plus companies. So the total addressable market that is not yet addressed from Tesla is big. So even if you just talk automotive and look at that, the future is bright for the company. And the bigger value and profit will come out of the software part, which lately I've been writing a tweet. I've been saying Tesla is more an AI, I mean, essentially an AI company.
Yeah.
And Elon was replying to that, confirming this. And I think a lot of people don't understand what this means. And this is not just a new buzzword out here. It's just interweaved into the organization. And obviously, I'm talking about full self-driving, and I'm talking about the bot here, which is extremely exciting. And I'm totally aware that a lot of people who are hearing that are saying, okay, that was it. I've been with you until this moment, and now it's gone because all what I see from Tesla is vehicles, and all the rest is just promising, and they are delaying the full self-driving for 5 years now, and the same will happen to the bot. Fair enough. But if I go back in the year 2014, and I'm starting my research earlier, 2012 and 2013, exactly the same argumentation was made at that point in time. And, there was just a very small community like you and me who made their homework and tried to get a better understanding. Is that real? I mean, can they do that? Can they bring battery electric vehicles to the market on scale and make a profit with it? And that was a bigger question mark to me than comparing today if Tesla will be able to have a full self-driving solution out on the roads. And the jump from full self-driving as a vehicle, as a robotaxi, to Optimus, to the bot, is way smaller than most people believe. Why? Because the bot, to produce such a bot is way less complicated than producing a vehicle, a car, just in terms of how many parts you have, what kind of metal or plastic is in there, the complexity. It's just way less complicated to produce it in masses, in volume. That's number one. And number two is, and I think most people don't understand this, having Dojo and all the data allows Tesla to develop the algorithms needed to, get full self-driving going and be successful with it. Just the sheer volume of data and the simple fact that this is now video in and control out is amazing. And for a bot, there is no reason why exactly the same wouldn't work. It's the same methodology. It's copy and paste. There is no obstacle in my understanding or no big question mark why they shouldn't be able to succeed with a bot. And you've been doing with Søren Becher fantastically explaining what this means in terms of valuation. And I'm not going to repeat this here because everybody who's listening to the numbers is calling the two of us totally crazy, including Søren.
Yeah.
And maybe we are, but the point is the value creation matters that is coming out there. And the value, I've been 20 years in the software business and B2B software for enterprises. And I can tell you the leverage you have with software is so big that most people just don't comprehend that. They just see the car, the metal, and they consider Tesla as a provider. And Jens said it correctly, and I've been on his channel lately, and I said the same thing, which is, the car is just a vessel for the software. And because Tesla develops into AI, the leverage in terms of margin and profit is going, exponentially up. So I wouldn't be surprised in 10 years from now if the two of us are discussing why Tesla only has 50 to 60%, margin as a whole, and not more, and where this is going.
Yeah.
So, but coming back to the conversation, if we would have today the conversation and, full self-driving robotaxis would be out, the bot would be, sold to manufacturers first, and there would be an option later on to sell this to consumers and households. I would be way more conservative in this my prediction about where the Tesla stock will go, because the big innovations would be behind us, in my understanding, and the future would be probably still growing, like Apple's been growing after Steve Jobs left, because there was not a lot of innovation after. And they still can make solid money and grow. All of that is fine and may happen with Tesla too. But I would be more careful in terms of the outlook compared to what I see today. What I see today is a stock that is totally depressed and a lot of FUD in the market. And that's all great news for me as an investor. It's fantastic. If I read from HBSC, I think the bank name was, their research note, this is for me a running joke to read what they're writing. It shows me that they have understood nothing, that they don't understand Tesla. And that gives me really a good understanding about the opportunity for the future. So long story here for I think a quick answer, but I'm going through scenarios almost every day about what good or bad can happen to Tesla. I'm not blindfolded for risk and issues that may happen. And, I make mistakes too. I didn't expect that it takes that long with the interest rates rising and with the inflation and all of that, and it may take way longer than I expect before we see the next rally. But I have absolutely zero doubts that we will see it. I have absolute zero doubts that we will see new all-time highs. And later on, people will regret that they didn't use opportunities like today. And as a disclaimer, it's of course no investment advice, because it always depends on the personal situation of someone. But for me, this is kind of almost a no-brainer today to be an investor in Tesla. I believe it's the best thing you can do. There's no need to go full in like I did, and I still am. But at least a few shares should be in the depot of every investor that is serious and is a long-term investor.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. It was wonderful. We had a good conversation. You shared information about Giga Berlin. We talked about German automakers. We talked about Chinese car companies coming into Europe, FSD potential. Lots of insights you shared because you are so based in there, because you dive deep. Thank you very much, folks. Follow Alex on X at Alex_A Voigt. He's got an incredible newsletter that you can subscribe to his X account, and you'll get deep dive interviews. And like you heard in this interview today, he has a lot of advanced knowledge before other people do. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.